Hey guys, great to see everybody. Look forward to the point where we can get back in person as well. But it is great to see everybody. Obviously it's been a long off season. Highly motivated team and coaching staff. Obviously we're all still working through some of the challenges that we're dealing with. Nationally as well as in our world right now. But I like where we're at. We've had a really good spring. We had a really good winter period. We've had a great summer, and camp's gone extremely well. So we're in a good place. There's been a lot of competition, really throughout all the positions on our team. And I think the veteran coaches have done a really good job helping and complementing the new coaches, and we're in a good place. Obviously, having Wisconsin as a opening game is different than I think the way college football normally starts out. I think that was a big motivator and driver for us all off season. We don't typically put a countdown clock up of our first game. We do that usually when we transition to our first opponent, but we thought it was important to put that up in our facility all summer and all training camp. So that's been up there ticking down, and I kept saying to them, it's going to be here before you know it. And every team meeting would end with the slide with how many days we had left, and here we are in game week. So looking forward. I've never been to Wisconsin as a coach or as a player. So looking forward to going there. I've heard great things. I know it's going to be a challenging environment. Got a lot of respect for the university. Got a lot of respect for the athletic department, specifically the football program, and what Coach Christ has been able to do. Obviously, he's a great fit there and got a lot of history, with the town and the university. And we're looking forward to this opportunity. So open up to questions.
We'll start with Nate. We'll start with Nate Bauer, Blue White Illustrated, and then go to Mark Brennan.
Hey, James, how are you?
Hey, Nate.
Hey, this is kind of broad, but this time of year, obviously you're making personnel decisions, first team, second team, so on. You've been doing this for a long time. Are those stressful for you? Are those conversations something that you agonize over, or have they become easier over time? How do you typically approach those conversations?
Yeah, to be honest with you, the position coaches typically handle them, Nate, and I'll get involved if it's a issue or if it's a problem or if we feel like it's close or sensitive. Really, for the most part, our players know based on the rotation at practice, and if there is a change, then they're seeing it reflect in their reps in practice. One of the things that I made sure this past week is that all of our coaches had clear communication with their players and have a really good understanding kind of where they're at. But for the most part, Nate, the players see it the same way as the coaches. One of the things that we've done that's been pretty interesting, we don't do it at every position, but sometimes we have the players rank themselves. So you have I know Terry Smith does this a lot. So he'll have the corners rank themselves, and then you total them all up. And more times than not, the players see it the same way the coaches do. It's always interesting though, is there'll be an outlier where a player sees himself really high, but none of the rest of the room, his peers, don't see it that way. That's I think it's really valuable information. But for the most part, everybody sees it. It's just like, with you guys. I know the question's coming about the depth chart from somebody. But the reality is the local media that you guys are here all the time. You know what the depth chart is, and so does our team. So I think it's more from a national perspective as well. And I might as well cover that while I'm on the subject, so maybe someone can save a question later on. But for us, we've always released a depth chart. I really don't have a strong opinion either way. There's been multiple schools in the conference that haven't been releasing it for a number of years. And then this year we found out that Illinois, Michigan State, Minnesota, Nebraska, Ohio State, and Purdue either we're not releasing it or we're thinking about not releasing it. So it just didn't make sense for us to do it if others weren't. I know on Sundays or even Saturdays when we're breaking down the next opponent, if that's already out there, it saves some work. It saves some time. So for us, I don't really have a strong opinion about it. I want to make sure that we take care of the local media as much as we possibly can. And you guys, you're at enough of the practices, you know what's what anyway.
We'll go to Mark Brennan, Lions 24/7 with Fight on State, and then Ben Jones.
Hey, James, thanks for your time today.
You as well. Is that your backyard?
Yeah, I'm trying to enjoy the outdoors while we still can with football
Nice.
season hitting. Hey,
Very
could you talk a little bit about some of the areas where Mike Yursich has had the biggest impact on Sean Clifford and maybe just Sean's progression in general from last season where it was kind of up and down for him? Thanks.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that's most impressive about Sean is the way he prepares and how he is with really from a football IQ standpoint and understanding protections and what we need to do to solve problems and things like that. He does a really good job and he works at it. He's got a really good football IQ, but he also really works at it. Mike's been different, and I think in a lot of ways, I think it's been good for Sean. Mike's aggressive. I think you guys saw it on the field the other day. Mike's aggressive in how he coaches, and I think that's important because come Saturdays, it's going to be an aggressive game, and you got to pick and choose your spots, and there's a time for that and a time not. And I think he does a really good job of balancing those things and putting pressure on our quarterbacks and really other positions at times during practice. So that the games are easy. That's kind of, really been our overall philosophy, since I've been a head coach and how we run our programs. And I think Mike's done a really good job of that. And then, like I mentioned before, for the most part, everybody in college football and now really the NFL are all running kind of the same schemes. And it's about how you package them. And Mike has obviously had a lot of success in how he packages the plays that pretty much everybody is running, but how he packages them, how he presents them. And obviously there's also that aspect of a play caller is there's 4 to 6 calls a game where, that's where you're going to differentiate yourself from others. And obviously statistically, Mike's been able to do that over his career. It's been awesome seeing him and Coach Pry go at it at practice every single day. It's been very competitive. And I know Mike had a lot of respect for Brent coming in. And I think that was attractive. That was an attractive aspect to come into Penn State. So I think it's been really good for Sean. It's again, it's another opportunity for him to steal some, really strong qualities. He's been able to learn from the best qualities of different offensive coordinators he's had. And Mike's another one for him to do that with.
Ben Jones, statecollege.com, and then we'll go to Rich Scarcella.
Hey, James, how's it going?
Hey, Ben.
I don't know if talking about the depth chart is going to fall under the we don't talk about injuries umbrella, but the working assumption has been that Taquan's going to be your number 2 guy at the quarterback position. Is that the case? What was that conversation like, and what do you kind of want to see from him moving forward?
Yeah, that's fair. There really hasn't been a whole lot of conversation. I sit in the quarterback meetings every single day, and one guy is taking 90% of the reps with the ones. Taquan's taken 90% of the reps with the 2s, and Christian's taken 90% of the reps with the 3s. So everybody clearly understands where they're at and where they stand. And he's done some really nice things. He's thrown for a high percentage. For a while there, his attempts without an interception was ridiculously high. He had thrown a bunch of balls without turning the ball over. The ball jumps off his hand. When he's confident pre-snap with what to do, he's very effective post-snap. It's getting him consistently really confident pre-snap with what we're trying to do and why and how. But I think he's opened a lot of eyes this camp. And, as you guys have asked me before, I would love to get him some reps, where we can, meaningful reps, in games.
Rich Scarcella, Reading Eagle, and then we'll go to Audrey.
Hi, James.
Hey,
What
Rich.
has Jahan done to elevate his game even further? And what have you seen from the wide receivers during camp other than him?
Yeah, so I think with Jahan, he's gotten bigger and stronger and more explosive. He's always been, as you know, silky, smooth, and fluid, kind of with his movements all the way back to high school. He's the guy that, whether it's football practice at Penn State, whether it's basketball in high school, whether it's track, he's just that guy that has tremendous body control and made everything look easy. Sometimes you don't think he's running very fast because he's just so fluid in the way he does it, but no one catches him. He's subtle kind of with his moves. But now that he's more explosive and stronger and bigger, I think, that's got a chance for him to translate into more explosive plays for us, which I think is really important. With the rest of the receivers, obviously last year we played two true freshmen in Keandre and Parker, and they gained, invaluable amount of experience on game days, but then also how to practice and how to prepare and how to eat and sleep and just how to be a big time Division I, student athlete. So they've grown up, dramatically over the last year, and that experience that they gained last year will be really valuable. And then there's a bunch of veterans that we think should and need to have big roles for us. Guys that have been with us for a long time. When you look at, guys like CSB, Cam Sullivan Brown, who is a guy that we've been excited about since the day he stepped on campus. But with that, he's kind of battled the injury bug. Daniel George is another guy, big, strong, athletic. I think he's got the longest, reception in Beaver Stadium, history. Those are two guys that we really need to take that step this year. And we think they can. There's a lot of confidence in them and a lot of belief in them. And we're going to need them either to be starters or rotational guys for us this year. And then on top of that, there's some young promising guys as well. Some of the guys that we've kind of already talked about a little bit in the past. Liam Clifford's a guy that has flashed and done some nice things. You look at Winston Eubanks as a transfer, has really done some nice things for us as well. Harrison Wallace is a young guy that showed some promise in the future. And then Malik Mega, is as big and strong and as fast as any guy we got. So there's a combination, and there's other guys. Weller's a guy I look at a lot like Lutz in the past, a guy that's been in the program and paid his dues and is reliable and can make some big time plays for us. So I probably have missed somebody, but there's a good group to work with, and there's some experience as well. And that's a group that needs to take a step for us and for Sean this year.
Audrey Snyder, The Athletic, and then we'll go to Adam Rittenberg.
Hey, James, another depth chart
Audrey.
question for you. How you doing? I wanted to ask about left guard and who's your starter there, and how is Anthony Wiggin kind of shaped up this camp? Because he was a guy that a lot of his teammates have commented on as somebody who did well.
Yeah, it'll be a rotation between right now, Wiggin and Wilson will be the two guys that will probably rotate there. And both have shown some really good things. Obviously Wiggin has been with us for a while and has really had the right attitude and the right approach and has worked his tail off. And Eric's a young man who transferred in, and I think it was an adjustment when he first got here, but continues to get better. So that they will both play. They'll both play on Saturday.
Go to Adam Rittenberg. Whoa, hello. Go to Adam Rittenberg from ESPN.com, and then we'll go to Bob Flounders.
Hey, Adam.
Hey James, hope you're doing well. I'm just wondering what are you hoping to learn about your offense one way or the other this weekend, especially against a team that typically plays, top 5, top 10 level defense in Wisconsin.
Yeah, obviously, it's a tremendous challenge on the road against Wisconsin, and Coach Leonard does a fantastic job for them, and they play hard and they're sound. But obviously, we feel like we're talented and got a really good scheme as well. So that'll be a great challenge for us. I think with the experience that we have up front, with the experience that we have at tight end, running back, and quarterback, that we have some opportunities to take advantage of some, whether it's scheme or whether it's some athletic, things that we think can be challenging for their defense. It's going to be exciting to watch. Obviously, when you got playmakers like we do, like Jahan Dotson at wide receiver, and 2 young up-and-coming guys that we talked about already, there's going to be opportunities. But it's going to come down to one of those types of games. They play a lot more man coverage than I think probably people that don't know or study Wisconsin closely. They play a lot of man coverage. With man coverage comes opportunities if your man can beat their man. There's obviously some things scheme-wise that you can do as well. Going back and watching that bowl game from last year with Wake Forest, there's a lot to look at there and learn from there. But again, it starts up front, like it always does, whether it's the O-line or the D-line. And their front 7, and us being able to block them effectively. They do a great job of what football people call green dog, where they add on. If the running back stays in the blitz, they add quickly, which causes challenges. It's interesting that they're not overly high when it comes to sacks, but you feel them. They do a great job of pressuring the quarterback and feeling them in the pocket. So it's going to be a challenge. Jim Leonard does a great job. They've been good on defense for a long time. We're on the road. It'll be a great challenge for our guys, but I know we're excited about the opportunity.
Bob Flounders, Penn Live, and then we'll go to Mike Foreman.
Hi, James. How you doing?
Good, Bob. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for your time, James. I
You
wanted
as
to
well.
ask you about 2 of your defenders. What have you seen from Curtis Jacobs this offseason, and specifically in August camp? I know you talked about him in the spring as somebody who you were ramping up to play some meaningful snaps at outside linebacker, and also Jesse Luketa and his hybrid role. How do you think he's taken to that throughout the offseason?
Yeah, really good. I'll start with Jesse first. Really good. We've kind of always viewed Jesse like this, and I think his future is probably in this area as well. We see him as a guy that's going to play both linebacker and DN for us. It'll probably be, rotation at both positions. There may be a week where he spends most of his time at defensive end, and there may be a week where he spends most of his time at linebacker, but we're going to need him to play both. He has shown that he's able to handle it. He's extremely smart, extremely football smart. I think Coach Pry does a really good job of teaching concepts, the big picture at the linebacker position, which I think helped his transition to defensive line. He's always been a physical guy anyway. That's always been a strength of his game in my mind. So he's going to play both. And I think you'll see him kind of rotate at both positions and get a bunch of reps. When it comes to Curtis Jacobs, obviously Curtis playing as a true freshman and really did some nice things for us. Was more of a rotational guy last year, and now, is going to be a starter for us. His athleticism, I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but early on in Curtis's recruitment, he was a wide receiver. I remember, deep into the recruiting process with his dad, getting into some, pretty heated conversations on what he was and what his future was. And I think all those skills that he learned playing offense in high school, and the ball skills and the playmaking ability, really translate, to that field backer position for us. He's big and strong and fast and physical, but he also has the ability to cover in space, and I think is very comfortable in space. He's really got some safety qualities, which is really what you want at that field backer position. And we think he's got a chance to have a big year for us. We need him to have a big year for us.
Mike Porman, statecollege.com, and then we'll go to New Bias.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, James. Thanks, Chris. James, are there specific examples of things that you've seen to indicate that the team's ready for a game of this magnitude? And you've done this forever. Certainly there's been false positives where you thought the team was one thing heading into the opener and then it was another.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think I think your point is a good one. It's very different in college football because in most other sports, you have a preseason, and some people build their schedule that way, where you play some out of conference games early on to build up to these type of opponents, and maybe work through some of the early season things that you saw, right? We saw some of that this weekend, watching college football. You see that in the NFL. I guess starting, is today Wednesday, Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday, excuse me. I guess starting tomorrow night, there's like 80 games tomorrow night and like 80 games, on Thursday. I guess Wednesday and Thursday night, there's a bunch of games, and Friday night as well. So you'll see a bunch of that. But, we try to put as much pressure on our guys as we possibly can in practice. I think you, as well as everybody that lives in this community, knows that we ramp the music up at practice as well, because going on the road, it's like people coming to Beaver Stadium. If you don't prepare for that, that's hard. That's challenging, and try to make it louder in practice than we anticipate it to be in games. And then getting into Beaver Stadium, because it's always different. Going in there, playing night games. We did some night practices at 7:00 under the lights, so they get used to that. And the Jumbotron, last week we scrimmaged at the exact same time as it will be at Wisconsin. So we just try to cover it as much as we possibly can, Mike. We spent a lot of time talking about situational football, covering all those topics in detail, not only in practice, but also in the meeting room as well. And explain what the situation means, talk about what our philosophy is. So we just try to do the best we can to get everybody prepared. But I think, you're right. You don't ever truly know until you step out into that environment. The more veteran players you have helps with that. I think one of the games, this past Saturday, I think the one team had 21 super seniors. And that probably helped and showed up in the results. So the experience matters, because those guys have been in those types of environments before. So I think all you could do, Mike, is do everything you possibly can to be as thorough and as detailed as you can, and talk about what it's going to be like, show them what it's going to be like, and create as much pressure as you possibly can in practice. With the fine line of also building confidence, so that we can go in there and play well and play aggressive and play fast for 4 quarters.
New Bias Wilborn, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, followed by Frank Bodani.
Hey, New Bias.
Thanks for your time always, James. Last year.
Did you go to Clark Atlanta?
Yes, sir. Yes,
I
sir.
didn't know that.
Yeah, man. Wonderful institution. From there, we talked last year after the Michigan game about riding up to the stadium and not having, getting booed and getting thrown at, and how much you missed that. How much are you looking forward to that, particularly at a place, Wisconsin, you hadn't been?
Yeah, I was really more talking about missing the fans. I don't know if I necessarily missed the booze, New Bias, but yeah, it made the point. Yeah, obviously I spent some time in Wisconsin, and I'll never forget coming out of the Packers facility. You walk across the street to get to the practice facility, which is right across the street. They have a couple outdoor fields and the indoor fields. And I remember, I want to say it was like a Thursday, we played on like Sunday, obviously in the NFL. And there was like 4 guys sitting in the parking lot, grilling brats and drinking beers. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, getting ready for the game, So, I think there'll be some brats and beers, and I think there'll be some booze, but I also think there's going to be a bunch of cheers because, people have missed college football. People have missed getting together as a community. And I think that's one of the things that's great about college football is it brings people together. I think like nothing else. And, I think the Big Ten, as well as Wisconsin specifically, and I know Penn State is worked really hard to try to do it in a way where we keep everybody as safe as we possibly can. Playing an outdoor sport helps with that too. But I think that's going to be important for us all to be aware of the rest of this year, is making sure that we're all making sacrifices so that we can be as close back to normal as we possibly can be. That's why I appreciate you guys being so understanding about being on Zoom, because for us here at Penn State, just trying to limit as many of those variables, control as many of those variables as we possibly can. So appreciate the question.
Frank Bodani, York Daily Record, then Joe Giuliano.
Hi, James. Good afternoon to you today.
Hey, Frank.
I don't know if you've ever had a running back room this deep in your career as a coach, but having said that, one of the guys at the top is Noah Kane, who we haven't had a chance to see from a whole season yet. How good can this kid be? How is he different than other running backs you've had, his impact on the room and the team?
You said Frank, he was at the top of what? Do you have a depth chart? No,
one of your
I'm
main
kidding.
guys.
It's a depth chart joke. Sorry.
Sorry.
Too soon. Obviously Noah played really well as a freshman, and come the end of that season was playing, maybe as efficient as maybe any running back in the country. And obviously a lot of excitement, coming into last year with him, and then lose him in the opening drive of the first game. But I do think, all of that has really helped Noah mature. And I know when the game is taken away from you, you appreciate it even more. He's been phenomenal as a student athlete since he stepped on campus, both on and off the field. He's done extremely well. He's killed it in the classroom. Mom and dad have been awesome. They come up to practices and games all the time. He's been the model student athlete. I'd take more of him. So I think he's going to have a really good game for us, but also a really good season. And Noah's going to be a success in whatever he decides to do long term. He's a special young man.
Joe Giuliano, Philadelphia Inquirer, then Andrew Clay.
Hello, James.
Hey, Joe.
We had two of your players on today, Rashid Walker and Jahan Dotson, and they mentioned that how close they've become going back to winter workouts, spring ball, summer, and now training camp. Close relationships, great camaraderie. Have you seen that? Is that like the best camaraderie you've seen in your program in quite some time?
It'd be easy for me to just say yes, Joe. It's just hard. I think we're in a great place. Don't get me wrong. I think we're in a really good place. We've worked hard at it. We always work hard at it. We do a lot of things. We try to be creative. We're demanding and challenging and hard out on the practice field, but we try to make the meetings fun. We try to make football fun. We try to do those things that I think are really important in building a team through blood, sweat, and tears, but also through laughter and joy and those types of experiences. And I guess to my point, Joe, and to your question is, it's just hard to compare because we didn't really get any of those things last year. So is it that this team is closer than any team I've been around? Or is it just feel magnified after going through what we went through last year? I'm not really sure. And I don't know if it's fair to compare and contrast, but either way, I think we have a very close team. And that's not just the players, that's the staff, that's all of us in this thing together. And, that usually results in good things for you. I know yesterday, is their day off. And, I walk down to go to the nutrition bar, and there's guys everywhere, on their day off in the facility, laughing, talking trash to each other, getting rehab or doing regen or watching film on their own. And when the guys want to come in the building and just be around each other and be around us, I think is a really good sign.
Time for two more questions. We'll start with Andrew Clay, WTAJ, and finish off with Ali Barubi.
Hey, Andrew.
Coach, appreciate you taking a few minutes for us today. My question
Who is
a
that
follow-up-
just ran by in the background?
That was my wife running by.
Tell her I said hi.
Coach Franklin says hi.
She tried to get out of the picture before you went live there.
She did. Hey, so I wanted to ask you kind of a follow-up to something you said earlier. You had mentioned about Coach Yursich and Pry kind of competing in practice, kind of one-on-one kind of competing as coaches. Is that common for your coordinators to kind of take a pride in competing in practices, not just the players, but the coaches doing it?
Yeah, we've always been that way, whether it's the O-line and the D-line coach, going at each other in practice, or whether it's receivers and DBs and so on and so forth. And we try to make it as competitive as we possibly can too. So, we'll say that this drill, they're all competitive, right? But we'll say this drill today, this drill's for 10 push-ups. The losing group has 10 push-ups, and I'll keep track of it. If it's third down, it's pretty easy, right? Did you pick up the third down or not? But when it's not, I kind of have a grading system that when it goes in the defense's favor, they think it's good. It's a good grading system, and the offense doesn't, and vice versa. As the head coach, you can never make everybody happy, but we try to breed that into our practices as well. There's some days where it'll be the coaches doing push-ups without the players. Usually the coaches are included with the players, depending on which side of the ball you're on. For us, we'll have days, like I said, where it's just the coaches, where the defensive coaches are doing the push-ups or the offensive coaches are doing the push-ups. And because I'm not really offense or defense, I do push-ups with everybody. So I think that's helpful. I think it's fun. I also think it brings out the best in you. I think, having those conversations in the meeting rooms, having those challenges in the practices, helps you identify what strengths and weaknesses are. So come game day, you're not figuring out what some of those things are.
Last question to Ali Barubi.
Hey, Ali.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? How's your family?
Good. What about you?
Doing all right. Kind of a flowery question, I guess, if you will, but is there any relief coming off of a mostly normal spring camps, normal summer camp, now looking at your first game with large fans in the crowd for the first time in, almost 2 years? What is that like for you now, sitting on a game week? And also on that note, what does college football mean to you?
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember last year going to the games and watching the cut-ups and how strange it looked with nobody in the stands. A year later, after watching hours and hours and hours of that film, and also experiencing it, it's not strange. It's not strange to see the cardboard cutouts or the empty stadium. So, getting back to, some form of normalcy, I think is awesome. There's still some headaches with it, as we're talking about travel parties and planes and buses and roommates and those types of things. There's still a lot to navigate with it. Personally, my family's probably not going to come to the games until an hour after they start to make sure everybody's kind of in and they're not caught up in the crowd. And then they're going to stay an hour after the game so it clears out. So there's still a lot of things that I think we're all doing to try to navigate this in the best way we possibly can. But I will tell you, even with that, there's just so much excitement. I was excited, last Saturday, we practiced early in the morning, and we're ahead from a game plan perspective. So I was excited, we had, the Big Ten game up on the Jumbotron at the end of our practice the other day. And I just kind of sat in there and watched a little bit of it. So, as you can imagine, I'm a big believer in college athletics, and what the athletic experience does to accent the overall university and community when done the right way, like we do here at Penn State. Obviously, I'm biased when it comes to football, and what it does for the community, and a lot of ways you could call it the front porch of the university. It's, for a lot of people, it's their first experience of what the university is all about. And when you see 107,000 fans all singing together, laughing together, cheering together, hopefully all laughing and cheering, it's special. I say Penn State football games and Thon, I think, are two things that really differentiate Penn State and bring our community together, like very few other places. And I think our country, I think this community, our state, and really across our country, I think we need it. Now, again, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. We all got to work really hard to do it as safe as we possibly can do it. And we're all going to have to make sacrifices to make sure that we can keep it. But I do think it's important. And I think with people being thoughtful, and caring of others, not just, ourselves, I think we can do this.
Thank you very much, Coach.